Hey, good evening, everyone. Hope y'all are doing well, and welcome to another live stream covering World Creator 2022. So, first up, question: how much VRAM are you using for a given environment here in 1/8 meter precision when textured with multiple materials? Well, in this example, let's see. This is the previous terrain that we had from last week. I'm just running it at a 1/4 meter, but let's see what an 1/8 meter does. It's not a whole lot of textures. It's just 4, but there's a good bit amount of filters here. So it looks a little over 5 gigs, and this would be the equivalent of 8192 or 8K res. So yeah, it's a hair over 5 gigs, and I have 24 gigs total. So I think the most I've ever done in a pretty expensive terrain was probably around 10 or 11 gigs, perhaps. But that was, I think, with the gigabyte, with the VRAM usage, I think most of it comes down to, I believe, textures, like the kind of textures that you use. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know if filters necessarily rack up a whole lot of VRAM usage as opposed to textures. If I were to, well, let's see, well, just turning some of those off, it's still, well, I'll take that back. It only saved myself a gig just by turning off the textures there. Let's see what, actually, so me just turning off 3 pretty intensive filters did nothing. Quite literally nothing. So the filters did nothing. All right, we're gonna turn those back on. So that's an interesting test. Now it's a little higher. What the heck? Well, I can't remember if that was what it was before. I know that let's see. Let's turn the general strength down pretty low and see what that does. That does next to nothing. Hey, Kiwi. A lot of phone calls now. Moving. Hey, moving is not always the most fun of things, especially if you have a lot of stuff. So, anyway, we were just talking about VRAM usage, and it's kind of strange. Let me go back to a 1/4. So that's crazy. At a 1/4 meter, which is what we did this previous terrain on, only uses a hair over 2 gigs, but at an 1/8 of a meter in precision, so 8K, it's over 5 gigs. Is it possible to paint custom sub-biome distribution? Well, I'm glad you asked, because that's one of the topics I was going to discuss today. And that's kind of a gray area question. To answer that question, it's a yes and a no. So I do know that the biomes, it's strange. The entire UI is getting sort of a little bit of a facelift, but there's a feature that's coming to biomes that's very similar to areas in World Creator 2. Much like World Creator 2 when you think of areas. But you'll be able to mask an area specific for a biome. So if I wanted to, say I wanted to paint in this hill here with a specific biome and have that biome be technically translated to what will be called an area, you will be able to paint that in. Otherwise, let me just start a new project, because we're going to be starting a new one anyway for the topic that I'm going to be covering. All right, so let me get this up here. All right, so in essence, a biome is basically, think of a biome as just a layer or an area. Right now, this biome is covering this entire area, but if I add a couple more biomes here and look under, I can't remember where it's the biome distribution. Here we go. And I'm just going to hold on, let's do this. All right, so technically what's being displayed on the terrain is just 2 biomes. Right now, it's just procedurally generated, but you will be able to paint in where a biome is going to be. Oh, did you check out that video I sent you? Seems that guy behind Open World is thinking like World Creator 2 a bit with his terrain magic. Yeah, I did. I kind of breezed through that video a little bit. I was kind of in the middle of something when I was checking it out. I didn't see the second half of it. I watched the first half of it. But yeah, it's pretty cool thinking about the same process as World Creator 2. And I believe that is some similar things that are going to be coming to hopefully in the next iteration for World Creator 3 or this version, especially with areas, because this is kind of areas. So this is kind of a terrible example because it's a procedurally generated area, but let's just, for hypothetical situation, think about this yellow area as an area that you painted in yourself. And let's think of this blue area as the area you didn't paint in. So let's just go in thinking this yellow area is what you've painted in. So, and that's the one that we've got selected here. So let's say in the biome, or the area, so to speak, under here, that the detail is really slim. All right, and that is interesting because it should have, okay, there we go. Oh, I see, because it's part of that. Yeah, so that's a bit weird. It should have changed. Actually, hold on. Let me. That doesn't work right. Okay, I could have swore this worked before. Before, if you changed. Oh, hold on. Let me change the noise strength. That is really weird that didn't work. All right, so there's a bug there. So me changing these level strength sliders for this biome should be overwritten. Okay, well, that one worked. So there's a weird distribution there, apparently. So basically what I'm saying is what you should be able to do, which I've done this before, and I'm not quite sure why it's doing this. I had the same problem working with multiple biomes. Yeah, so it shouldn't have done that, because I know I've done this before where, say, if you wanted you paint in an area, this is the example I'm getting to. Say you paint in an area and you want that particular area to have less quads. Well, I think we're going to be able to adjust the precision level per biome. I know we're technically, if I'm lowering all these, this is super smooth. So that would assume that, well, it's too smooth. So it should technically have, if I go back to 1 meter, we should be able to set a precision level per biome, and say in this biome, I should be able to have it overwrite. Yeah, it should be able to overwrite all the detail, and I'm not quite sure why it's not showing up. That is, let's see. I think that's a bug. I think we've just discovered a bug, because the biome is not actually, hold on a second. Hold on a sec. No, that's still not working. Is there an add, subtract, multiply option that could be causing that? Well, it shouldn't, because there's an operation right here that's set to overwrite. So whatever operation is below, it's like this biome is acting as the main driver for the rest of it, and it shouldn't be that way. It's technically it shouldn't do that. It should be override operation. Now there is an add, min, and max, and none, but the operation of overwrite should override it. So that is a bug, unfortunately. I've only got 2 versions of World Creator. Both are versions that I don't think you guys have, to be honest. It's weird. The version that I'm working on is a staging version. It's not exactly the version that you guys have. So disregard that. Let's just start a new file. Maybe. Don't you love it? Having problems right up at the get-go. So, bugs are yummy. Oh, I found a heap of canyons, mountains, etc., but there are 8-bit. Oh, like height maps, Kiwi. You found some good locations. We're going to be, now that we're kind of into this, we're going to create something real quick, and I hope that, actually, let me just load the project and I'll kind of show what we're going to be doing. If I can remember this, we're going to kind of create something similar to this. Something similar to this today. And the whole point is to show how to do some sort of glacier effect, like these pieces right here. They're not the best because there is going to be a glacier filter coming, I think. Don't quote me on that. Do we know when the option for tiling for Unreal Engine 5 is coming? So tiling for Unreal Engine 5 is only necessary in a certain circumstance. If you are creating a terrain that is the 8129 or whatever the max resolution, that's the typical, I think it's 8129, Unreal Engine 5 terrain, then there's no reason to tile it. Because world partition is really good about that, and so you can tile it, but in here, you will have both options. You will be able to, and I wish I could showcase it, but I can't yet because I'm not greenlit to show it. But you are going to be able to create multiple tiles at whatever resolution that you want. And you can either export, I think the maximum resolution export that they're going to allow is 32K. I know you'll be able to do 16K exports from here. And I think they're going to allow up to 32K. So that'll be the max single resolution that you can handle. Maybe 64K, but that's pretty insane. And I think the max resolution, single texture resolution that Unreal Engine 5 can actually input is like, I think it's 30, it's either 28K or 31K. I can't remember. Somebody tested it out and it actually was pretty crazy. I'm hoping I can load them in World Creator and export them as clean 16 bits. Yeah, there's going to, I think, a whole optimization around Kiwi that they've been doing since they've kind of recoded a lot from scratch in order to do larger landscapes. And so I think that sort of 8-bit, 16-bit optimization is definitely something that they're doing or planning on doing, at least. Let's see. Tiling for Unreal Engine. Yeah, so tiling for both, if you choose to, for both Unreal Engine 4 and Unreal Engine 5 on the export options, whenever that happens, you will be able to set. I don't even know if you can do that yet. Yeah, so this is kind of a version that y'all don't have yet, but we can specify the game engine. Here's Unreal. So it still has the weird coding names on it, but you can see that there's the Z height that you would have to plug in for the range that we were used to. All this information is what we're used to from World Creator 2. But there will be an option here to split the terrain, and you will be able to type in what tile size you want to export. And you will be able to do that for whatever engine you want. But for Unreal Engine 5, if you're not creating a terrain that's larger than 8 kilometers, there's really no reason to worry about tiling, because world partition is like the way to go. I think you can do much higher than, you can input much higher resolutions than 8K now in Unreal Engine 5, I believe. But it'll only sample that at their 8K size. So that's one thing we're actually going to be showcasing here on this stream, on this particular project. We're going to import all these at 3 different ways. We're going to do the tiled world partition, and we're going to use the bridge tool. And there's only really one application or one usage of the bridge tool that I can think. Just wish Blender was better with large landscapes. Yeah, I don't know what the max vertice count for Blender is. I thought it was really high. Isn't it like in the millions and millions? But I guess what you could do is if in Blender you could technically tile it, and because I know in Blender you can turn on and off what's being displayed in the viewport, and you can turn on and off individually what's going to be rendered in the viewport. So you can tile the landscape in Blender and work on different tiles if you want. And when it comes to render, as long as you save the project before you click render, it'll spend the very slow amount of time rendering a lot in the background. I have no idea what the max amount that Blender can handle, but I thought it was quite a bit. Let's see. Any chance we get a rotate around the mouse option for camera view next build? Oh yeah, instead of this action. Yeah, I hope that it's a matter of like holding something else. Really, there's no function for the left click. I thought there might be. So everything's the right click. I also know that I've been pushing this for a while, I think, having custom key bindings. So you can set the key bindings of whatever you want. So yeah, this rotate feature should be around, let's just pretend, it should be around whatever my mouse is instead of doing this zigzag function. All right, so let's actually get to creating. Oh, just exciting for people to use down the road for large scale maps. Absolutely. 88. Oh, so 88 million triangles is close to a hard cap for Blender. That's a lot. Could do like Blender and make it a preference checkbox. Yeah, I guess you could do that. I am planning on exporting. I'm saying that we're going to be taking this these terrains and doing different shoot, now I lost my train of thought. I have said that we're going to take this terrain and import it into Blender, but we're also going to, for the sake of doing mesh stuff, we're going to import it into Blender. There we go. That's fine. I am now going to create somewhat I'm going to try to create our mountain, but I want to, let's see. No, Now, if I remember how to do this, yeah, there we go. So I don't usually, let's see, let's make some out here. I'm basically just going to try and sketch a little bit. I want the glacier that we're going to make to come down this side. So hopefully we can kind of bump up this area here. I have no idea how well this is going to look because I haven't done this on a custom piece yet, but we shall see. Yeah, let's turn this way down. There we go. I figured out a good color scheme to kind of see what I'm doing. Looks like a poodle, you know? I'm not upset about that. All right. I guess we didn't really need the border blend since we did all that jazz. Let's go ahead and add our handy dandy add set and add distribution, mask, 4K mask, create, clear, import this guy. All right, so stop editing. Now we've imported the hexagon. It's set to add, so we're going to increase. Basically, increasing that will cut everything off. If we increase all of this, it will sort of smooth out the edge. So we got our hexagon shape, and we've done this hexagon shape so many times. But if you've watched the last stream, this add set feature is the best because we are establishing that height is exactly 0 meters above sea level, which really is 0. And our terrain max height is 129 meters. So let's see what we can do a little bit more with this. I kind of want to pump this up a little bit more. Perfect. Well, I wouldn't say perfect, but we'll see what it's like. Alt left click. Oh, wait, did I miss something? Hold on. Okay, so Alt left click, or is it Alt right click? Rotates camera around center of tile. Okay, well, let's go over here. So that is true. And I have no excuse why I don't know that because I even have a key binding command sheet. So Alt right click rotates around, but it's still, it's still based. It rotates your camera around based on where. I guess if you're close enough and you do this sort of rotation, doesn't matter. That is way better than this. It should be. I don't like Alt. I want it to change. Okay, so there we go. Alt right click and move the cursor, and that's it. Yeah, but it resets the whole view to the center of the terrain. Wait. So mine doesn't. Unless if you press F to refocus and then do this, you're in the middle of the terrain. So one thing that I don't like, because I'm used to, well, I guess Alt click's not okay. Here, Alt plus right click always resets the camera to the center of the tile. That is just such a funky thing. but it works. All right, if I remember this correctly, we'll go to hydraulic. Oh boy. All right, so we're not quite looking completely the way I want it to yet. All right, let's try and I promise we're gonna get to our little glacier piece here, because there was a couple other things I wanted to show, but that's not necessarily that's not. I'll raise this up just a smidge. All right, it looks janky right now, but once we add a few more stuff, I think this might have been one that, well, that's not bad. We're gonna change, actually. We're going to add a few of these erosions, because I believe, if I remember correctly, how I did some of this. I think ridged flows, I had lowered some of the upper bits. All right. Okay, I know what I did. So I don't want this ridge flow to make everything sharp. So I'm going to add distribution. I believe I did curvature. Yeah, and curvature and height. We'll pump this. I think it was somewhere around here, perhaps. Yeah, let's do this. So curvature will just affect those areas, and we will smooth out the we'll taper the bottom edge of it just a little bit. So now we have a little bit of a smoother transition. It's still pretty high, but that's okay. We will, it's still really high. All right, we got to bulge this top up a little bit. It's a little too thick. Here too, not an ideal orbit camera, but better than just look. Yeah, it's better than just, well, it's not bad. I mean, it's not bad. It's better than doing this. All right, and I think, let's see what peaks did. All right, I remember I did add peaks, but we did the same thing, except I think this time, I think I did curvature as well. No, wait. No, I didn't use curvature. I think I just used straight up height for this one. Yeah. I'm trying to get a somewhat of a decent What in the world? All right. That was a weird effect. It's a rocket ice pop. Well, this is definitely not. I know I used this. Now I'm just completely debating on my what the heck I did in that other project file. All right, we're gonna. I'm pretty sure I know I used that, but it's not working exactly the way I wanted it to. All right, I know I did thin. No, we're not doing that. All right, let me see how my effect for the glacier is going to work out, because so far I should get used to just doing this. I wish that, see, what I'm used to is I'm used to holding shift and see, middle mouse button does this, but I'm used to in so many of my other programs holding shift and middle mouse button to do this. That's why custom key bindings should be the thing. You can check the other project file. We're not going to tell anyone. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Let me save. Relative path. Save. We'll just. Mountain 1. And I believe we can actually just open up another. You guys really want me to open up testing, don't you? That's the unhinged version. All right, let's see if we can open up another one. Will we have really free sculpting freedom like with the height edit in areas on World Creator 2? So I'm just using this one as an example real quick. Yeah, in a way. Yes. And with you can kind of do that now, and that's what I've kind of showcased in a few recent streams. And I'll do that real quick. So add filter, and you can either choose height map or just general, or so add and set. And we will do, let's see. We're going to add a distribution mask, and we'll keep it at 1K. Create and clear. All right, so now if I wanted to, let's increase the smoothing, and that's holding shift and mouse left and right to adjust the feathering. Hold control and move the mouse left and right to do their radius. And that's pretty much it there. So there's not one for the strength. Well, I think there is one for the strength. No, there's not one for strength yet. So the strength here is at 100%. Let's knock it down to 1%. And if we were to say, let's paint right here. All right. So you see, it's kind of hard to tell, but now if I were to increase this, actually, I'll do all these to show you. And lower this, you can kind of see, all right, this is a terrible example. So I think 8 is a pretty good range. Yeah, let's jump it up to 50%. So this is kind of a trick to get it to paint. So right now we're set at 0, 0, and it's just going to kind of overwrite that information in that area. So you see it lowered. That's pretty hefty. Let's bump it down a little bit, lower the brush radius, and let's lower this ridge line. See, we really lowered that because it's super strong, but we can adjust this on the fly if we didn't want to do that much. We just lowered that some. And see, we just created this little divot. If you want to make no smoothness, see, H, high. So we can kind of sculpt based on using the add and set. And what I'm doing now is I am sculpting on what's about 50% strength at level strength slider number 8. If I wanted to increase this, it's going to lower this a bit further. Now, the reason why it lowers is because this height offset is set to 0, which is at 0 elevation. If I wanted to add information, we could just select add, and it'll add information on top of that. But really, you don't have to do that. We could just say height offset. Let's add 40 meters worth of information. So now see here, I am just adding information. So if I wanted to paint a little ridge line here, this is really drastic. I wouldn't do this level of strength. I would do just 80 bits at a time and make the smoothness around 80%. And if you want to extend this ridge line out, just gracefully extend it out. Yeah, it's pretty great. Let's see. So it's in filters instead of an area. So yeah, the area aspect is the custom base shape where we can go in and customize the base shape and however we want. But the custom base shape right now for what I'm showing here is destructive. And once you do it, it stays unless you undo it. If you want to, and I've talked about this before, if you want to add a biome, set it to none. Actually, we can set it to add. Do custom base shape, create, flatten, and we shall increase the precision or the subdivisions really high. So this is another way we can do this. Let's do another one. Actually, let's set this one up here, set this one within that. Custom, I'm going real quick. So we can do, let's say 8 levels and flatten, and then inherit filters and add. This is crazy. All right. So it looks the same, but what I've done is I've got 3 biomes. Each are nested within each other, and their operations are each set to add information, and they're also both going to inherit the filters that are set in the global biome. So what we can do here is in this biome, we'll say, hey, we're going to subdivide and add information based on 8 subdivisions. Or in this one, we will sculpt detail based on 10 subdivisions. Now, it's only going to work really well if, it's best if you adjust the level strength slider here to really affect the higher level details per biome, because it's going to take a lot for me to sculpt this, increase this, and then bump it up. See how smooth that, well, it still works. So hold on, let me increase this by 25 meters. All right, so this is the non-destructive way. So this particular biome is sculpting a really fine level of detail based on 10 subdivisions. So let's go to this biome. It is, let's just say it's 7 subdivisions, but I'm just going to click one here. And And let's just lower this particular section. So now we've got different levels of detail that we're sculpting at different quality, different levels of detail of sculpting based on the subdivisions for custom base shapes. And that's all you do. That's all I have. I'm just using these two biomes here to do sort of bigger sculpting of the terrain. The reason why, and that's non-destructive, as long as you keep your details oriented, it stays that way. The reason why this filter here, I think I got the right one. Yeah. The reason why this one is great is because it's super non-destructive. After you paint something right here, you're not locked into, what did I have here? Oh, you're not locked into a certain, density or height. We can change that height and we can change the details that this affects, which in my opinion makes the sculpting much smarter. So if I say, hey, I don't like how this is affecting level step 8, so let's lower this. And we've just basically removed that information, but I want it to affect level step 13. See? Look, it's just done the resolution of 13. Or if I want to make it a little more subtle, let's do level 5, which I believe is like 512 by 512. That's not going to do much because we haven't got, it's a too low of a resolution. So let's go up to 6. And that's still too low of a resolution for what we're doing. So 7 in this case, for how little I've done, is what this is going to affect. And another reason why it's non-destructive is we can change the height. We can say we want it to be really high globally, and it affects everywhere that you paint, or I want to be really low. So it's a really non-destructive, and you can have multiple ones of these. And eventually we're going to be able to name the presets or name the filters so that you can do what you want. Oh, so no, you're fine. You're totally fine because the glacier part is coming up next. And the glacier part's kind of a hack, actually. Let me see what I did here with, where the heck were we? Oh, Mud Ridge. Okay, I take it back. We did not use peaks. I'm going to remove peaks because I don't like that. It's too much. What the heck did I use? See, I have interesting outcomes for my testing. So I use, that's the trick. So ridge. Okay, so the bottom is border blend, which I don't need that because I customized it myself. Hydraulic, wide, ridged flows. Okay, and it's ridged. That's what it was, but I did it based on curvature and height. So let's do that. Now I've completely lost ridged. All right, because I wanted the caps to be just a little bit sharp. So now we can add distribution, curvature, and I'm going to cheat again. So what the heck? So 2.3 and 15 and something. All right, so it's much easier to do this when you do this. So on curvature, this is a really cool one. It's kind of like a more advanced version of the cavity filter, but we can change a lot more. So the radius, we can choose that the radius of that curve that it picks up is much smaller or really small. Or if we want it to be a much larger effect, it captures a much larger range. I think I had it, 15 something? Yeah, that's fine. And steps is how many it's basically iterations. So if it's one iteration, it captures one round. Or if it's 10 iterations, it captures 10 rounds of that. All right, so that's fine. And then if you wanted the opposite effect, instead of it capturing the convex areas, if you wanted it to capture the concave areas, then hit FX plus and just invert. And it inverts the effect. And it's pretty simple. All right, the next thing I did was not that, was height. And I know I wanted it to be something like, yeah, a little smooth. That's what I did before. So let's bump this up a smidge and bump this down a smidge. That way it's gradual. There we go. So it's sharp up here where erosion doesn't round it off as much. And it's smoother down here where erosion, as you guessed it, rounds it off. So now that we've got this, I don't like this peak here. It's still pretty sharp, but we'll get the idea. Same, that's how it works in World Creator 2. Yeah. So that it makes sense, and it's coming the area filter. So what we'll be able to do is we're able to classify biomes as essentially you'll be able to add an area on top of this biome, and you'll be able to cut it out if you want, or paint it in however you want. If you want the entire landscape to be, 1K by 1K resolution, but you want a specific area or a specific biome in like this little ridge here to be 8K in density, you'll have adaptive resolution, I hope, for adding detail specifically. This is pretty sharp. So we're going to add the trick. So here's the trick. There's two different things that we can do here. Actually, I'm going to do this one first. And I'm going to hide this because I have a trick for this. Actually, let me go ahead and show this. So we're going to basically use the general add set to, as you guessed it, add detail in a given area. But we're going to do a trick. Have you ever thought about, so you've got, let's just add this distribution and flow here. And we'll show heat map. All right, so you've got this flow distribution. And let's say iterations are a little high. Yeah, let's say we have this. And this looks good. And the only way to display this, visually is by applying the flow distribution on a texture. But let's say that you wanted this flow to actually have some sort of value that physically cuts the terrain. And so that's why we'll use the general add set as that sort of height map level stuff that we've just talked about. And so now let's say we want to tighten this up a little bit, and let's evaporation. There's so much involved with this particular filter. I forget it sometimes. It actually needs a little bit of an that's a little weird. Softness. Okay, this is a little closer to one. Let's make it a smidge softer. All right, let's just use this for happenstance here. It's still a little funky there, but this is just an example. So say everywhere that's red, we want it to push the landscape down just by a smidge. Well, that's why we've got it at add set. So let's having the offset at 0 is fine because it's going to push the landscape down to 0. So let's increase 13 just a smidge. You see what happened there? So everywhere that is red, it is really pushing. Let's make this a little smoother. And so this flow is, let me turn this off. This flow is a really, really harsh. So if I wanted to blur it a little bit, we'll blur the entire flow just a little bit. There we go. So it's a lot smoother. All right, so now let's go ahead and add this back. Turn off my heat maps once it's done generating. All right, so here in a moment. All right, so now you see that it has quite literally cut the landscape quite drastically. That's why you got to do a very, very, very subtle effect. This is only 5%. And then we can knock that back down as a whole down to 50-something%. So you can kind of see, especially right here, it has carved a smidge out of the landscape. And if we want, and we could change that height if we wanted to change and add 40-something meters where that is. And this is going to be crazy. Oh, it didn't do, not too bad. It only added so much. See how I just added that back? Let's see what happens when we go minus 80. It really cut it. I think maybe adding 7 meters. Yeah, that's not bad. So that's one little trick that you can go about using flow distribution to physically carve out rivers. And it could, you can see it carving it right there. You can spend a lot of time tweaking the flow settings and doing some extra effects because you want it to smooth out. The further down the mountain, you want it to kind of smooth out a little bit. You don't want it to be too overpowering. All right. This peak is still just a smidge too high. So let me lower the overall height of the thing down to 200 meters for generation. Oh, that's not. Oh, it's because we customized it. That's why. Anyway, so we're going to quickly show the glacier part, which is what the whole point of the tutorial was about. All right, so we're going to go to and add another filter. And the really, really good one is sediment and mud. Let's go ahead and add this. So this is our mud effects. Now, same thing, just like we did with the flow filter. Let me pop this down. We're going to do the flow filter for our mud. If I go back and go to this one, you see our mud. Oh, actually, let's drop this down to 75 and 50 because I don't want it to be too dissimilar. There we go. So we're going to basically create this edge, and that's by applying flow, and quite interesting flow. So 0.5, 1, and 1. I think that's the default flow. There we go. You can see just by doing this, see how it kind of added this cutting effect. The mud just kind of has this really interesting outcome. So Oh, that was just straight default. Oh no, so iterations. I did have a lot of iterations. So, and the value was 1.3. Iterations were 380. So I apologize, but this took me a little bit of time just trial and error testing out. Let's do that. So that didn't turn out quite so well. Nice. Finally caught a stream. Welcome. We are just doing some glacier runs. So this one actually, that one doesn't look, this side doesn't look too great. Let's see which side looks pretty good. See, it's still too... Let's go ahead and blur this a smidge. So glaciers like cut and carve the landscape, which is really what I like about this area right here. It does cut it just a little bit. And I'm going to show you how to mask out the area that sort of shows the front of the glacier. If you actually have a glacier showing. Let me smooth that out just a smidge. That's looking a little better. I like this one right here. Same, I hate Twitch and haven't signed in for months. Wonder why Twitch instead of, wait. I missed something there. So, oh, I see. So you're wondering why I'm doing Twitch instead of YouTube. Well, YouTube, I'm pretty much saving that for my sort of webinar-esque sort of style. I do push these on premieres every Monday, but on YouTube, I'm wanting to keep YouTube more of that sort of webinar-esque style where I will spend the first 45 minutes teaching something on a structured outline, and the last 15 to 30 minutes we'll answer questions. This is just Twitch. It's just supposed to be a chill hangout. Yeah, I could if I wanted to. Let's see. Let me get to, let's say, I want to pick one that I like. I do like these two right here. Let's say we want these right here to be our glaciers. Let me go ahead and just add a mask. All right, so we will add a 2K mask. Oh boy, that was a lot of chunky stuff there. All right, and let's clear this out. So I've cleared it, and now I'm going to add detail. All right, let's add 100% in this area. So we're going to just work in this area right now, and we will reshape this here in a second. So this is me deciding that I want this area right here to have this mud glacier effect. Waiting to see where World Creator 3 is headed. Still using World Creator 2 due to 3 missing some of the core features I need. Which, yeah, that's totally fair. Which filter, which of sort of the 3 features that you really would like? Because, I mean, we can definitely, I have a list of features that kind of give the devs directly, and I can certainly help do that. All right, so we're going to add some, we could do this. So let's see in the flow rules here, we could try adding some distortion. Let's see where this takes us. One reason why this is taking a little bit longer to pipe out is because I think since I did the custom base shaping, it's having to flatten all the generation stuff first and then calculate what I've done. All right, distortion, let's make it really low first because it's distorted that flow a whole lot. Well, I need to look into World Creator 3 more, but I like being able to place the person in the scene, handling of areas and biomes. Yes, I completely agree. And fortunately, both of those are, I believe, coming in the next variation. So, well, I don't know about the person. I do know having a mannequin or being able to put yourself in the scene is very important for scale. I mean, just getting close and seeing how big a person would be. I think having a walkable character would be nice. Just being able to, walk around and see what the heck's going on at a person scale. Areas, yes, areas. There's a lot more with areas specifically coming for biomes. We can do this now in a way. If I wanted to, say for this hydraulic simulation, if I wanted to create a mask for, or right here you see area enabled, that puts the typical area shape that you're used to. I can pan this around, move this over, and this is sort of the typical area effect that is just like World Creator 2. And we can also paint in this area. This is the full-blown area system, and you can change the blend type. Yeah, let me turn this off so I can re-enable it for the entire terrain. The mask distribution is essentially, what I did with the sedimentation mud here. If I can get back to it, because obviously this has taken on a whole new category, and I wonder why it's being very sluggish on me right there. All right, so edit. So it's just like this. I'm editing this area and I'm choosing that this mud. Now there's going to be more functionality with biomes and painting areas, just like you're used to with World Creator 2. Oh, is there a way to stamp out flat areas? Like if I want a little shelf on the side of the mountain for a village with a path up to it. I will have to rewatch the stream later. I missed it. No, that's fine. Yeah. So the path stuff, there is a system that they are working on for this version in order to create roads and paths and stuff. Similar to, I would say it's very similar to how Unreal Engine does spline paths. But yeah, if I wanted to, and we're getting kind of a little off topic, but that's okay. Let's say on this side of the mountain, add a filter, actually, so that we can, let's add a second biome specifically for this effect. We'll do the operation to none. And we will inherit the filters. All right, there we go. Let's, for the time's sake, to make our operations a little easier, go down to 1/4 meter. Because I have no idea why it's, when I did this earlier, I bet I know why. It's because I have two different it's one reason why it could be working. All right, so let's go and add a filter, add general, add set. And let's say you want to do level step 10 at 100%. Add distribution, mask. We'll just use 1K as well and clear that out. Okay, so you want a shelf. This is how I would probably try to do it. So say we've got this is a really weird example. All right, let's increase this height. get it to be about maybe where you want it to be. There we go. So we have a shelf right here. We can, let's see, let's make it the edges a little tapered. And there you go. You've added a shelf on the side of this mountain right here. Yeah, making, say, put a mannequin to check the scale of the map, and World Creator team can shut up and take my money. Let's see. It would be really cool if there was a live plugin to Unreal like Houdini. Yes. We're going to cover the Unreal Bridge tool. We're going to cover the Unreal Bridge tool. There is a tool, but there's not a live link. And I think there's some kinks around that sort of process with World Creator right now, but it could be a possibility. So we'll see. Mannequins are definitely coming. The 2 scale stuff, I think there is going to be, like I said, if I get down here, there'll be a playable character that you can walk around to get an idea scale. There is a really cool, let's see, if we were able to, whenever we're able to import objects, we could just import a mannequin object and use the scatter filter. We can, let's see, we'll import the object, and based on a distribution right here called splatting, we could put an infinite number of mannequins across the entire terrain in a grid, and they'll be pasted at different heights so that if you wanted to like go around and see different mannequins at different scales or at the same height at different locations on the terrain, that would be cool as well. All right, let's see what you're saying. Yeah, making small, fine details in the map is important for game devs if they want to use maps for an open world game. Totally agree. And that's one reason why I say add multiple areas, but in this case, it's biomes, and use the add set feature, or you can also use the height map feature here. See, if I want to import a height map, let's just do that. Let's import and I did this in previous streams too, which is really cool. We can, where is this at? We can do stamping. So I think it's clay. Here we go. Stamping, and we'll set this stamp to an area. And let's say we want it to stamp right there. And the height scale down to like 8%. Maybe that's a little too small. Hold on. There we go. Let's swap these out here. There we go. And lower the quality a bit, or the general strength a little bit. So here we go. We've just added some, and I've done this on previous streams. We just added some striations to this ridge line here. Even though that's not very pretty. We can do loads of just importing other height map information. And that's actually pretty key. I've talked about using World Creator to create a stamp like this. And why does that? Oh, I've removed the wrong thing. That's okay. I've talked about using World Creator on creating basically stamps of details, just different kinds of details that you can use to paste in areas. So that's one application. I guess paths can be done the same way as the shelf. Yeah, but I think the paths that are coming, you'll be able to guide a spline, just like in Unreal. You'll be able to, in sort of, if you want in 2D form, or in, not 2D form, but yeah, it's kind of like a 2D map form like this if you wanted to. You'll be able to draw a spline where you want that road to be or path. And wherever you clicked will be the last elevation on each of the nodes. I believe that's how it's going to work out. All right, so back to the glacier because we're running a little over time. So here on the mud, I am going to, we distorted it well, I don't think we actually distorted it much. Distortion is fine, but I didn't want it to distort too much. See, I still, see that's, I don't want it to be too wiggly. Nope. Let me turn this off. Yeah, I like the smoothness of that. So on the mask here, edit. Let's say we want, just like in the other one where the glacier kind of stops here at the edge. Well, that's all here on the mask idea. So we've got, let me just remove all of this. All right, so I don't want a glacier there, and I don't want a glacier past there. I just want it right here. I just want those areas to have the pass. Let me stop editing, and you can see this is kind of simulating glacier edges. If I wanted just that carving effect to cut in, let me bump this back to 1/4 meter. Paths built with splines. That's awesome. And wait for that enhancement. Yeah. I do know that's the goal, is to have them be as splines. Yeah. World Creator and Unreal Engine 4.5's landscape blueprints are a great pairing. Non-destructive terrain editing is sweet. So that's all I'm trying to kind of showcase here, is different ways to do what I'm doing here, like this, in non-destructive ways. If I want the effect of this glacier to be a little bit less, you know, I can change everything. If I want, you know, see this, it's a hexagon. If I want that hexagon shape to just be subtle, I can always go back and make it less subtle or less apparent. And now it's calculating the whole edge. Well, actually, it didn't do. Yeah, there we go. So now you see it's getting us the effect, but it's bleeding over into the edge right here. Just a little bit, but I don't want to do that. Is there a reason the tutorials on the site switched to Vimeo? On the World Creator website, the World Creator 3 tutorials were always on Vimeo, at least the ones that they're using. The ones that, yeah, so the ones on the website are, they wanted to use my videos because I created those. They wanted to use the uncompressed versions of those, the full 4K 60 FPS uncompressed versions. So Vimeo obviously was the best platform for that. And that's free for everyone to use. But if you don't like Vimeo, I've got all the exact same tutorials on my YouTube channel, which I'm sure everyone knows what that is. It should be that. I was trying to find them on YouTube and thought I was losing my mind. Nope, you're not losing your mind. Just go to that link. I created all the videos, and you should be able to see them there. All right, so real quick, let me bump this quality up a little bit. Okay. So you get the idea of this little glacier pass. Basically, it's a unique way of using the flow filter or the flow distribution to change the effect of the landscape. And I'm just using mud because mud is a really unique application. We're going to probably redo this particular hexagon to make it cleaner like the other one, but it's just an example. With texturing, here's where it gets funky. With texturing, I basically want to use this exact flow, these exact flow settings and these exact mask settings for the texturing of, the glacier. Right now, you can't copy and paste these distributions. So later, I've talked about this as a feature of grouping things. So if I want to have a biome or an area that shares the exact same distribution rules between filters or between textures, you'll be able to do that. So for the sake of time, because I'm way over time right now, I have already saved the project. Let me just double check. Let's load in the test mountain one. You can see it's the same exact thing, basically. Oh, that's why that one worked so well before, because it was a half meter. All right, so we will next week go over how to do sort of unique texturing effects for snow. I'll spend a whole stream talking about snow, but for this, to get this effect here to painting the glacier, you see I've got, which one is this? Hold on, let me hide this. Yeah. So I basically using the flow and mask settings, the exact same ones that I used to generate the glacier pass here, so that the texture basically overwrites the same area as the flow does. Let's see. Is there a way to blunt the ends of those flows? Oh, you mean like make them chunky, like more crisp, or smoothen them out? Because we can definitely make them sharper, perhaps. I'm sure we can with how the flow is going out with the mud here, with the flow and the mask. If I were to have a little bit of a soft edge there, I could potentially sculpt that however we need to sculpt it. Oh, blur. Oh yeah, we could, but I was wanting to make it more. All right, so there's two different ways we can do this. We can assume that the glacier, because the glaciers are really slow, so we could either have the glacier stop abruptly as it's moving through time, but if it's one of those things where glaciers just keep moving all the way down, all the way down, all the way down, then we'll want to take this mask here that I've generated. Let's see, make the smoothness 100%, and let's drop the blur strength down to about 20%. Let me add areas. I could blur that edge however much we want to blur it. And the more I sort of add to it, I can keep adding it down here, taking the textures away. You see right here, we're feathering it out by adding more to it. So this looks pretty cool by feathering it out. So here it is cut. So this is a young glacier. This is an older glacier, or a less strict glacier that smooths down. Oh, the T got in the way and hitting the R key. I see. Do you work for Byte to Bytes? No, I do. I don't work for them. Like, I'm not employed by them, but I do things for them that's work, if that makes sense. I do things for them, but I'm not employed by them. Wonder if you could balloon the ends of the glacier a bit. I'm assuming you probably could. Let's add a filter balloon. And we'll do this real quick. I would say mask it. We'll clear it. So we are on the balloon effect. And let's see, let's just paint in. So I'm just painting in the balloon filter just to see what it does. Well, hot diggity. I mean, hold on, let's lower this down a little bit. So that's obviously a bit drastic, but yeah, we've increased, we've ballooned that out. Would Simple Flow help to blur it in a more natural way? Yeah, yes, you could totally do that in mud. Of course, the thing with Simple Blur you got to understand is it does that throughout. So here on mud for the flow, if I wanted to do, what was that, Simple Flow? Of course, we're now taking flow and adding flow to the flow. All right, so let's see that's actually kind of wild. Hold on a tick. That is kind of, this is flow with Simple Flow on top of it. That is kind of, I don't even know how to describe that. Let's see what it looks like this way. I mean, it's a good way to add some detail, some rugged. Let's see. It's very interesting. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, the balloon was nice. I'm going to double click this so that we can get that back to normal. All right. So real quick, we are almost 20 something minutes. We're almost 25 minutes over my planned time. Let's see. Cool. Have any of the spline tools from the old World Creator been incorporated into the new one yet? Not yet. It's coming. Promise. And I have no idea if it's in the next patch or in the next one after that, but it's definitely coming. So real quick, last minute questions, because I have got to run to work on other projects. And so this is one of the reasons why I wish, or that I hope that my suggestion, my feature suggestion for getting this mountain actually turned out a lot better than my custom one. So we got to do some messing around with the other one to get it right, because I really want to do a custom mountain, but for a single peak, this one's not bad. One reason why I wish that we could set up sort of layers as areas or groupings, I would like to be able to match these distribution rules with these distribution rules for the texture. That way, when I change one as a group, they'll have, you see what I mean? Like the material and the filter will share a global distribution rule. And then within those groups, they can have their own individual distributions if they want, if that makes sense. Because now I got to go back in here and okay, so this, I've got to make sure I've added this back in this area, and so this has been smoothed out more. So now as brush strength, maybe we just paint this in here to kind of blend that out. So maybe for this one, we definitely get it to smooth out a little bit more. I'd like that to be a little bit less dense. So that's a terrible example, but you see what I mean? Like this can fade out a little bit more and this one could be sharp. Like this case, obviously the mask here didn't line up. So groups within groups would be very useful. I agree. All right, so I think that is going to cover the stream today. We definitely went over my intended target length, but I'm glad everyone came by to see sort of my discovery of getting glacier flows, or really just using the flow distribution with a filter to get interesting effects. I mean, you could test it out yourself. Use the flow distribution in conjunction with something like, any of these, or another simulation. Like try the fill soft and fill hard might be a really good one to try, or rocky erosion. Like you don't have to let the filter be what showcases on the terrain. You have the choice of using distribution rules to trick the effects to do whatever you want. And that's seemingly what I did here. It's just a mud filter with a flow distribution. So it's adding that on top of each other. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you would like to check out the 4K version of this stream, it will be available for Patreon users by the end of the week. And this should be on YouTube for everyone else in 2 weeks. And again, I do this every Wednesday or every Monday at 8:30. So I'll see you guys next week. Thanks, guys.